Hi, I'm Wade Harvey, and today I wanted to take a moment to talk about the two core differences between the development environment on the one hand and production on the other hand. Because when there's a difference between these two environments, we can get some unexpected results. So we need to have a clear picture in our minds of what's going on the development side, and we need to have another clear picture of what's going on the production side. Now, we need a web server in general. Most people know this for ASPNET pages, for authentication to occur, for the server code to be built, and for server code to execute, and for the page to be built and returned to the client machine. So we have these two environments. On the one hand, we have the development environment, and this is ASP.NET Development Server is built right into Visual Studio. So when you're debugging or not debugging, executing from Visual Studio, you're using the ASP.NET Development Server. Okay. When you're deployed your application to production, you're usually using IIS, Internet Information Services. So the first core difference between these two environments has to do with the security context. When you're in development, on this side, it grabs the security context, the application, the web application when it's executing, has the security context of the person that's logged in. When you logged into your computer, and this makes sense, you're the developer, you're in a development environment, it should have your security rights. So that makes good sense. And when you're in production, this also makes sense, that it should not be you that's getting security rights from you, because a lot of people won't be logged into your web application in production. So it has kind of a generic security context, and in most hosting environments, it's a network machine account, which is typically called IUSR machine name. So we need to keep this separate in our mind. In development, where we have the rights of ourselves, or if we log in as admin, those are the kind of rights to the files that we can access in a root directory. And when we're in production, it's going to be a generic thing called IUSR whatever. So we got those straight in our mind. But what'll happen is we get our web application working fine in development, and then we move it over to production, and all of a sudden we can't, if we're doing system.io text writer to write things into folders on our root directory, it's not going to work unless we first need to go into those folders and grant write access to IUSR machine name or web server name. Another problem that we can run into in production is if we're trying to write to the event log, Windows event log, or to the registry, the Windows registry. That's not going to work because the hosting companies are not going to want us writing to their Windows event log and so forth. And so we won't have the right security context to do that. So it's best not to do it. Okay. Now the second core difference between these two environments has to do with accessing static pages. Both core differences deal with security. The first one was a context, and this one has to do with static pages. And static pages are just pages that don't contain server code. They're zip files, PDFs, CSS, HTML, so forth. Now, when we're in the development environment, over here, when we're in our development environment over here, everything operates as we expect. Everything goes through an ASP.NET runtime requests for all pages go through this ASP.NET runtime. And so they're authenticated. If we're authenticated and we have these static pages in a folder, and we're using web forms authentication, and we've got that folder secure, we can't, if we're not logged in, we can't get to them. But if we are, we can. Okay, on the production side, it acts a little strange, in my mind, at least. On the production side, if it's a static page, the only thing that's going through the ASP.NET runtime where authentication occurs are ASP.NET pages. So only ASPX extension type pages go through the runtime. So if somebody wants to get to a static page and they know the URL in production, they can go right to it by entering that URL in the address bar and press enter, and they'll get right in because those pages aren't going through the runtime. So this is a problem in production. We think that we'll think we've got everything secure, we've got the folder secure, we're using web forms to authenticate, and then all of a sudden, well, people are able to get in. So there's two workarounds for this, and one is if you use an IIS 7, you can use an integrated pipeline to make sure that everything goes through the ASP.NET runtime. But if you're not using IIS 7, using IIS 6, then one option would be to create an ASP.NET page and put the links to your static files on that ASP.NET page, and then put the ASP.NET page in a secure folder. And that way they can only get to the ASP.NET page by going through the web forms authentication, and then once they get there they can click on the links to get to the static files. So those are the two core differences, and I think it's important to learn as much as we can about both types of servers, the development server and IIS, and try to keep them separated in our minds so that we know what the difference is to reduce confusion. Thank you.